used to think I could get to a stage where every day I would feel a certain level of mental clarity, a certain level of contentment. But now that I've gotten older, I've realized that's probably impossible, and it's a target that's never going to be achieved. And all the things that I am doing and all the things that I have been doing throughout the years, all they're doing is increasing the probability of me feeling a level of contentment and me, I guess, perceiving myself to have a level of mental clarity. Now, this may seem a bit confusing. Bear with me, I will explain. I used to think that if I meditated regularly, if I ran in the mornings, did the cold showers, did the meditations, did everything that, that you're told you're supposed to do to, be mindful and to be, I guess, content, that you would be. And you could sustain that all throughout the day, every day. But there's too many minute things that can just throw you off. Sometimes you might feel like you slept well, but you might not have. Something you might eat might make you feel a bit off. Sometimes, not being able to get the exercise in the morning and then doing it at lunchtime, which is, perfectly fine, right? It's just you're getting a workout in, but doing it at lunchtime for some reason might just not make you feel the way you expected. And then as a result of that, a little bit of randomness here and there, your body, I guess, feels a bit differently. And because of that, the way you perceive, I guess, your day-to-day also changes. And that's why it's quite difficult to sustain a level of mental clarity and contentment every day, because every day is just filled with a bit of randomness that you cannot control. I think I know now that it's more of a game of probability and a game of frequency. I know if I do a certain number of things and don't do a certain number of other things, on most days I will feel better. In moments during those days, there's a higher probability of me feeling a general level of contentment, more clarity of mind during those days. For example, I don't drink much alcohol anymore. And the reason I cut it out is purely for this reason. It's not that alcohol, like me drinking maybe once a week, doesn't mean the rest of the week following, at every moment in time, I'm going to feel better. No. But if my general contentment goes up 20% of the time versus what it was when I was drinking, to me that's worthwhile. Because that means that's 20% of my overall well-being that is just better. To me, that's worthwhile. And that's just one example, right? And I can think of quite a few. I know eating plants versus eating meat works better for me. I'm not fully vegan, but I'm just all plant-based rather. But I know that eating generally more plants makes me feel better. So that's why I try to focus on eating plants. And just like that, these things aggregate and they accumulate and then they add on over time. And some things even create a bit of a multiplier effect. No one thing in isolation can result in you just feeling good. I think that is an aim that is probably very difficult to achieve. No one thing will help you do that. I think there are a number of things that when done with enough frequency and enough, consistency, they will add up to days where you just feel better about life. And oftentimes with this sort of stuff, less is more. Doing more things in the personal development space, or the things that you're told to do, doesn't necessarily mean your days are going to be better. It's just kind of what sits well with you and what works well with you and for you. And I think the best sort of technique for going and deciding what is best for you is just relying on your hunches a bit more, relying on your instincts. If you decide that something is not for you, don't try and push it. Things like, I guess, journaling aren't for everyone, right? Not everyone is good with pen and paper in their hand, and that's fine. But just because a bunch of, personal development people recommend journaling doesn't mean that you need to journal to, achieve the fulfillment that they are sort of articulating that they are getting from this process. I think it's always an interesting dynamic to manage. It's partly to understand how they are benefiting from this one medium, but then I think it's also about understanding how that translates to your life and how you can do that, or how you can find a way to do that works well for you. I think it's also important to realize that different phases of our life will come, and the things that may have worked in the past may not continue to work, and things that may not have worked in the past may begin to work. And it's all about acknowledging that, as we go through different phases in life, what we do affects our mind differently. And what results from that is, I guess, this constant need to sort of try and adapt to what is happening in our life. And I don't mean that in constant change. You need to constantly be doing something new, constantly be implementing stuff into your day and taking stuff out of your day. But again, it's about listening to your hunches and just sort of acknowledging that, if you don't feel right from time to time, something needs to change. And you don't know what small change can put you on a better trajectory for your mental state, for your general level of contentment and your general level of well-being. Or I guess mental well-being is what I guess I'm trying to discuss a bit more here. So on top of not just doing things on the basis that they benefited someone else, I also do want to say that, sometimes a lot of these things that may benefit you in the medium term, in the short term, they probably don't feel good. Like if you've never worked out, if you've never done any sort of cardio or something, and you want to get into swimming or you want to get into cycling or whatever, that first swim session or cycle session is going to feel terrible because you're doing something new and your body has to adapt to that. And I think the first few sessions are going to be terrible. I think it's also important to recognize that in this pursuit to try and increase the likelihood or the probability that we feel a level of contentment on a day-to-day basis, we have to experiment. And that experimentation often means going through process of a level of discomfort as we try new things and dabble in this or that. I think it's easy to conflate that level of discomfort with maybe this thing is not for me. And that is also a dynamic that needs to be measured and sort of understood, because it can easily mean that you don't pursue this thing where, it could have really benefited you in the medium term. So in those instances, I do believe that it's important to give things a good effort. Try it for a month. Try things for a month, because I think a month is a good amount of time where you can sort of reap, or at least begin to reap, the results of what those medium term effects look like. And it's always a good place to start. Overall, the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of the things that you dabble in, a lot of the things that you try in, there is no shortcut to just feeling content or feeling, a level of mental clarity. At least that's what I found. I found there's things I could do which would increase the likelihood that I wake up feeling good and I sustain that feeling throughout the day. And if I miss out on a bunch of those things, there is a chance that I may still feel good, but there is a higher chance that I probably won't. And the only time you can, figure that out is by experimenting. And these are things that you have to experiment with to really figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Now I've begun to think of a lot of the things that I do less as definitive of what it's providing me or what it's taking away from me. It's more just, what is this likely to do in the long term for my life in all facets, for my relationships, for my mental health, for my physical health, for my career, all that sort of stuff. And I think it's important to be able to diagnose how some things that you're sort of ascribing to your day-to-day can have these rippling effects. But generally, I do believe it's more of a game of probability. And that level of thinking has, I guess, increased my mental fortitude of the ebbs and flows of day-to-day life. As a result of that, I kind of understand that a lot of the things that I'm doing are just there to sort of support me. They're not there to provide any sort of definitive long-term mental changes. They're just there to sort of, I guess, contour the path for me and change the trajectory to one where I will feel a bit better about the day, every day. On this channel, I guess I'm trying to explore and understand some of my own experiences and how it translates to perhaps wisdom for myself going forward, and to anyone who may be interested in listening, that wants to, I guess, explore a bit more about what they want in life and that sort of stuff. And I think this counts, although it was a bit more abstract than what I've normally done. But in any case, as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.